The line in that scene, delivered in that accent, has been on repeat in my mind for the past 12 hours as I was preparing for this video. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, in the words of the Governator, I am back like a T-800 that had a moral dilemma and decided to go have a family for a couple of years and come out of retirement. And my goodness, has it been a long time. Goodness me, it's been like a year and a half. Wow. And with that said, do you know what's an unbalanced amount of fun? Jamie Foxx and Snoop Dogg hunting vampires. That's happening right now. That's a movie that is out right now. Who would have thought? I'm surprised this wasn't theatrically released. This is a Netflix movie. I stumbled upon it like late at night on Netflix when I was bored, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is so much fun. So you know I had to just jump on here and talk about it. Let's roll the film. Today's shift stars Dave Franco, Jamie Foxx, Carla Souza, Snoop Dogg, and Meagan Good. And directed by J.J. Perry, who's a first-time director. This is his debut film. A little bit of backstory on J.J. Perry. He is a stunt man. He's a stunt coordinator. He worked on movies like Iron Man and the original Mortal Kombat movies. And it really, really shows because the action in this movie, man, good God. And I gotta be honest, as a first-time director, I think he did an amazing job. I mean, it's not like a Wes Anderson or a Nolan production or anything like that, but as a first movie, this is definitely a good start. On to the premise of this movie, we follow Bud, played by Jamie Foxx, who is a vampire hunter with a fade nowhere near as cool as Blades. But nevertheless, he is a vampire hunter, kind of down on his luck. He's recently divorced and he has a daughter. So, you know, he's just going through the motions, hunting vampires. So in this world, vampire fangs are worth a lot of money, but you have to be part of this union of vampire hunters in order to make the most money out of it, which is obviously not a part of anymore because, you know, he's a badass, he doesn't follow rules, and the union has rules. So instead, what he does is he goes to this pawn shop and sells it for way less than what it's worth. And sure enough, in the inciting incident, his ex-wife gives him an ultimatum, telling him that she's moving away with his daughter, and the only way they could stay is if he made a shit ton of money in a short space of time. So naturally, Bud pleads his case with the union with the help of Big John, who's played by Snoop Dogg. The union decides to give him another chance with a couple of conditions, one of them being that he's accompanied on all his missions by a union rep who is definitely not a field agent or a vampire hunter. And now we have our buddy cop movie. And dude, like right from the beginning, this movie gets straight into the action. Literally 3 minutes into the movie, you are met with one of the best fight scenes in the past couple of months. Like I said in the beginning, it's directed by a stunt coordinator. I believe John Wick was also directed by a stunt coordinator, which is why it's such a fun-ass movie. The movie just lets you know immediately what it's about. Because that first fight scene, man, whew. Ooh. This is not a spoiler or anything, but the fight scene is between Jamie Foxx's character Bud against this old lady who's a vampire, obviously. But man, some of the choreography is just so creative, and it's really fast paced. It's so well done. The choreography, at least, is very well done. We'll get into the story and plot a bit later, but the action in this movie is just a fun ass time, man. And what I noticed during the action scenes is that there's this like softish, hardish, like a mix between soft and hard rock playing, and you feel the adrenaline, man. Like it's the pace, like I said, at the pace of these action scenes. They even have these drone shots. Like there's this there's this new like form of filming action, like with these like, drone racers. I think I googled it for a second, and I believe it was Ambulance that did it first, or the Gray Man. No, I believe it was Ambulance first. Like, of course, Michael Bay would go for it first. But it's just these high-paced, like flying shots through crevices, under cars, over people. It's really, really cool, and I think it's going to be one of the things that cinematographers are going to start looking at for action movies, at least, because it looks really good, especially in Ambulance. If you've seen Ambulance, you'll know what I'm talking about. And still talking about the pace pacing, man. Like, this movie reminded me so much of Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Doom Eternal and Doom 2016 are video games that are very high paced and very intense, which releases a lot of adrenaline every time you play it. And that's how I felt in this movie, man. I just felt like I was the Doom Slayer, or at least I was watching the Doom Slayer. To be honest though, I just literally come off of playing Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal back to back. So this might be a placebo thing, but if we're all gonna be honest, if that is not the super shotgun, I don't know. I mean, if you take the hard rock, demonic monsters, because let's be real, vampires are demonic monsters. If you take that, you take the shotgun, you take one guy taking on a horde of them, how can it not be Doom 26? How can I not think of Doom? Like, like especially since I just played it. Funniest thing, in Jeremy Johns' review of Doom Eternal, he's all like, and Jamie Foxx's character in Day Shift is all like, that can't be a coincidence now, can it? Seriously though, I even noticed some glory kills in this movie. Glory kills are these like violent kills that you do in the Doom game, and I noticed some of them in the movie. I feel like it's inspired by Doom, but then again, I might just be high off of Doom adrenaline. But if you played Doom before, let me know in the comments. Watch this movie and let me know in the comments if you don't see any similarities. All right. Enough nerding out, back to the plot. Let's talk about the chemistry between Jamie Foxx and Dave Franco. I've got to be honest, it doesn't fully stick the landing. For the most part, the comedy felt a little bit forced. I had a couple of chuckles here and there, but I wasn't there for that. I was there for the action. I was there for the stunts, and I was there for the vampires and the violence and all that beautiful stuff. But they really try to push the buddy cop premise, which kind of fell flat on its face, which is unfortunate because Jamie Foxx is a very charismatic dude, and I don't think that Dave Franco is a bad actor. So it's just a chemistry thing, to be honest. In the end, it just feels like a duo that didn't have enough time together. They didn't spend enough time together in pre-production. Like, it's there, you can feel it, you can smell it, you can taste it, but it just doesn't land the way you need it to land. And this is one of those times where I don't know if it's the delivery or if it's the writing. Because like I said earlier, Jamie Foxx is a charismatic dude, and chances are he can probably make anything work. However, when I look at the jokes on paper, like when I think about someone writing these jokes, what I'm hearing is funny. I'm like, yeah, this would work in a film, but it's just, like I said, it just didn't land. It was just a little hard to watch. There were a couple of scenes where I just looked at it and I was like, oof, yeah, let's get away from this scene because it's just very cringe. It's like, it hurts. Like, I was just like, wait, let's stop doing this. There's a particular scene with Dave Franco and he was like making noises and I was like, okay, dude, that's not necessary. Like, you're cool enough as a movie. You've shown me how cool you are in the first 5 minutes of this movie. You don't have to try so hard. Granted, I don't know how much more fun the movie would have been if they didn't attempt humor at all. In the end, I just think it wasn't necessary to push the humor that far because the movie did enough in the action sense, as I keep saying. Let's talk a little about Big John, who's played by Snoop Dogg. Man, Snoop Dogg is still suave at 50. This dude is pushing 50 and he is still one of the coolest dudes. Man, the direction they went with this character. They basically made his character like a gangster cowboy, which is ballsy, particularly with someone like Snoop Dogg, because generally what you would do if you're casting Snoop Dogg, you kind of just tell Snoop Dogg to be Snoop Dogg because Snoop Dogg will just be cool in your movie. But here, man, they gave his cool, calm, and suave demeanor the backdrop of a cowboy. Like, he drives a truck in this, he wears like a cowboy hat, he wears boots. It's just very unexpected, but it worked. It wasn't a problem. I had no problems with it. But obviously, Snoop Dogg was still Snoop Dogg, even under that blanket. Snoop Dogg was still suave. Snoop Dogg was still the ladies' man. Like, he was sounding like the coolest, most calmest, tranquil sound you would need to hear on a very stressful day. He's just really cool, man. And he's pushing 50. Good Lord. How is that even possible? But all things considered, this was a really, really, really fun movie. A part of me wishes it was theatrically released because it looks very high budget. And I would have liked to see it on the big screen rather than at home. Now, is this an artwork? Is this a Stanley Kubrick movie? No. Not at all. But it's a fun time. It's a fun movie that sort of knew what it was, barring the humor attempt. It was just a good time, man. Like with the intense action scenes, with Jamie Foxx's charisma, with Snoop Dogg's suaveness. All that put in one jar just proved to be a very, very fun time for me. I really enjoyed this movie. The only gripe I have with this movie is that it had so much potential to be even better. I suppose the problem is from the beginning, this movie did not take itself seriously. So the elements that might seem interesting to you, which a lot of them did for me, were kind of neglected. For example, like we don't understand how the world works. We don't understand why people don't know that vampires exist. If there's an entire union of agents hunting vampires, and if vampires are just running around at night and feeding off people, surely they would know that vampires exist. But they never explain that. Like, for example, there's this particular scene where Dave Franco is explaining certain rules about these vampires, but that never leads to anything. Like, that was probably the most interesting, in terms of story at least, that was probably the most interesting thing for me. I wanted to know more about these rules and about why things aren't happening the way they should be happening, but they just kind of let it go and just kind of focus on the action, which I guess, the movie was gunning for that. But what I don't understand is, like, why would you tease me like that? Why would you tease me with like potential interesting lore from the movie and just not like give me a payoff on it? You know what I mean? So yeah, the movie definitely suffers from a couple of issues. But all that said, I still think it's a good movie. I think it's a fun time for what it is. And like I said earlier, it's not a Stanley Kubrick movie. It's not a Nolan film. It's not a plot heavy movie, but it's definitely a good time. If you're looking for story and you're looking for plot, this is not the movie for you. This is mainly action. If you're the kind of person that enjoys movies like Equalizer, John Wick, and so on and so forth, then this is definitely the movie for you. Just invite some friends over, get the drinks flowing, pop in the movie, have a couple of giggles, enjoy some action scenes. It's definitely a good time. If you do decide to see it, let me know in the comments what you thought, or if you've seen it already, let me know what you think of the movie. And also, if you've played Doom 2016 before or Doom Eternal, let me know if you see any similarities. And also, if you're enjoying the content that I'm making, do consider subscribing. It would really help out the channel. And with all that said, I will see you on the next review, and I promise I will not go away again for a year and a half.